Hi, so it's Friday, all of the parties are back on the campaign trail. What is the difference between the parties? What are their manifesto pledges? Now you're talking, see? So let's start with the Tories. Now, their big manifesto pledge, which has caused something of a hoo-ha, is their ideas about reforming social care. Now actually, that's a redistributive idea. The problem is, it's only really geared towards people who need care for degenerative things like dementia. Next thing on the agenda with the Tories, taxation. Just basically says we reserve the right to put them up or to put them down, change stuff one way or the other. Housing. They are planning to build actually quite a large amount of houses with an emphasis on affordable housing. That raises a few little questions there, doesn't it? £150,000, which would still be over 5 times average earnings, or would it be 350? And now we move on to education policy. Now there's a pledge to put some more money into schools, especially with a focus on primary school education, a little bit of money into secondary as well. Obviously this is ongoing because we've got reformation of the exam process. The new GCSEs are about to come into play. My God, they sound like a really good idea, don't they? Oh yeah, A to G, nobody understood that shit. Let's go 1 to 9. The wrong way round. However, the big news, and again the one that's caused the most controversy, is the idea that they're going to scrap free school meals for primary school children. I think it's up to Key Stage 1. They're going to get rid of that, make that means tested, but they're going to introduce free breakfast for all primary school aged children, and they reckon it's going to be 90% cheaper. At the moment, it's about £1.80 to £2 depending on the authority, right? So that means we're talking about what? 20p? Something like that, 18 to 20p per breakfast. How's that work then? We're one stage away from gruel already, but it gets worse because nothing has been costed and nobody has taken into consideration staffing. That means you've either got to get teachers on their wage or TAs on theirs, which is around about £8 or £9 an hour averagely, to actually come and staff it. And you can't just have one person for maybe 150 kids. Oh no, you're going to need 4 or 5. So there we go, the costings straight out the window, pie in the sky, made up numbers. And now we get onto the one that's really made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up and make me go, hang on, what's going on here? There is plans within that manifesto to step up security on the internet and to give the surveillance services a little bit more power. Now this worries me, folks, I've got to be really honest, especially if we're talking about censoring stuff. It's up to you to make your mind up on that one. NHS funding, that's the next thing. Well, now the Tories are pledging to add some money into it. I forget the figures, I think it's around about £7.5 billion, but I'll correct it at the bottom of the screen, you know, for the sake of transparency. Mixed feelings about this one. It's good that more money's going in. I think it's something that we can all see is much needed, but who took the money out in the first place? Where did all the nurses go? What are the junior doctors so upset about? Answers on a postcard, you might want to send them to Jeremy Hunt. The other thing that the Tories have pledged is to reduce net migration down to the tens of thousands. How long are they going to keep flogging that particular dead horse? And then, you know, there's a whole load of sensible stuff. Foreign aid has been pledged to stay at 0.7% of GDP. There's some, you know, reasonably good initiatives here and there. So on to the Labour Party. The manifesto was leaked, obviously, which was apparently a bit of a disaster. I'll be honest, it looked like a PR win to me. What are the greatest hits of this manifesto? Well, the first one, let's start with the biggie. The one which I think is audacious to the point of perhaps even a little bit silly. Whether or not that's a good idea, whether or not you think that's affordable, that is actually up for debate, but you've got to admit, that is interesting. Then we move on to a whole load of other investment projects, you know, quite a lot more money for primary schools, quite a lot more money for secondary education, more money for nursing, more money for all manner of things. And it does naturally make you ask the question, how on earth is this going to be paid for? Most of the tax isn't going to hit average earners. The average wages in the UK are just over £25,000 a year. The only tax rises are for people earning over the £80,000 threshold, goes up by 5%, then over £123,000, up to 50%. There is actually one aspect of the Labour Party manifesto which hasn't really been covered very much. Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party are proposing that they provide enough housing to get anybody that's homeless or rough sleeping into accommodation to sleep at night. Who's going to disagree with that? We live in the 6th largest economy in the world. Not great, really, that there are still people living on the street. But is it costed? Is it affordable? Again, up to you to decide that one. And the other big cornerstone of their manifesto pledges is renationalisation. Now, mixed bag this one, falls into a number of different areas. You're going to have to make your own mind up, but I can give you my take on it if you'd like. Renationalisation of the railways. To me, No-brainer. Why? Well, because it's a natural monopoly. You don't have two lines next to each other, so you can opt to take one service or the other, so how can it be competitive? Now, you might be a little bit surprised that I keep ending some of this stuff saying, look, this is for you to decide, because I don't necessarily know, but there is a few things that we do know. We do know that nursing numbers are down. We do know that childhood poverty has gone up. We do know that food bank usage has gone up. And the other thing that we do know is, before the manifesto was released, Labour were polling between about 19 and about 24, possibly even 25% behind the Tories. Now, even the most negative polls are saying 10%, and there are some suggesting it's more like 5. Okay, and for the sake of balance, because it isn't a two-horse race, it is, it really is. Lib Dems, the big headline things are, let's make cannabis legal. Some of you are going to like that one. Let's put a penny on income tax to raise a little bit more funds, especially for the National Health Service. Again, that seems fairly sensible. New referendum at the point at which we're not sure about the Brexit agreement. Whoa, that one's going to split opinions. Don't mention that one at parties. Then, of course, we've got UKIP. Some sensible stuff that you'd basically be mad not to agree with, because basically it's the same as everybody else. And the idea that we should have one in, one out, completely neutral immigration policy. Let's just think that one through, shall we? A one in, one out immigration policy. I know. Okay, the Green Party, well-meaning, environmentally responsible, progressive, reasonable, no chance of getting elected. So there you go, a little walk through the manifestos, and as always, this is coming from a biased perspective. Always remember, don't take my word for it, do the reading yourself. But one thing I am going to say, and this is a serious point here, never ever say all the parties are the same. They're not, are they? So do yourself a favour, do a little bit of reading, make up your mind, and put the little X in the box, or even if it's a none of the above. Thank you very much for listening. See you next time. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Fox hunting. Nothing should get in the way of the will of the people. 80% of the people think it's a shit idea. Not us. Tally ho!